So at the time of this recording, the total market cap volume traded, okay, volume relative to market cap is 17.67% in the last 24 hours of Bitcoin BSV, Bitcoin SV. The reason why that's a big deal is because it's only at 101 million. And as you can see, it's down 13%. That's because overnight, at one point, it said over 130 million, and this figure was in the 20s. That's a really big deal, guys. See, the total supply of Bitcoin SV is the same as regular Bitcoin. We're at 19.9 million. And the market cap is 580 million. So if you were to round up to 600 million and you were to say, you know, what is, the point is that 101 is over 1/6 of the total market cap. Okay, so when you take $25 and multiply it times 19, or excuse me, about $29 and multiply it times 19 million, it gives you your 580 million figure. Okay, so that's the total market cap in dollars, right? So for 101 million in dollars to be traded, again, that is 17.67%, but last night it was over 20%. I can't remember the last time that over 20% of a coin traded in 24 hours. Okay, that's a really big deal. Especially, I want you to think about this for a second, when the coin doesn't exist on most exchanges because it's been banned from the exchanges. By the coin being banned from the exchanges and decreasing in value steadily since 2020, so over the past 5 years, it gives the masses a big reason to liquidate. Okay, because it's just, you can't swap it for anything. It's just like, you just want to get rid of it. Okay, so again, think about this. Without it being on major exchanges, over 100 million was traded in the last 24 hours, and last night at one point over 130 million was traded in the last 24 hours. So let me show you the volume chart here. Let me scroll up here. So this down here is volume. So you can see here, really thick volume, okay? And so let me back this up real quick. Back up to like a 1 year. Or let's do a 1 month. Okay, so we have big volume there, it went up. But this volume here that we have now, not only does it have a higher peak to it, but it seems like it's thicker, like it's more sustained. So big volume there led to that rise, that big, huge rise right there. We are in a similar situation. Now, granted, I think the whole crypto market might tank this week. I think that there's going to be an event that tanks. However, it could be correlated with this. I mentioned it in the video last night that if it's found out that Satoshi is selling Bitcoin and buying this and or swapping for a BSV, that's a nod towards BSV. Now, Craig Wright, who is one of the creators, finalizers of the BSV technology, okay, one of the programmers basically who put it together, you got to do your homework. BSV is more in line with Satoshi's original vision, and the Bitcoin forks that have happened along the way are because they wanted to kind of give up and not pursue Satoshi's vision anymore, and this one continued to pursue Satoshi's original vision. Supposedly, that's why they call it SV, Satoshi's vision, okay? So, you know, in the grand scheme of things, let me zoom out here. And by the way, this is not financial advice. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your money. $400, it's peaked above that. And instead of it continue to increase, which would have taken it, you know, it would be above Bitcoin Cash right now in value. Bitcoin Cash is like, I don't know where it's at. What is it, 600 bucks or something? I forget where it's at. But anyway, the point is, the volume is really interesting. Now keep in mind, this volume, the reason why it's showing up and there's none showing up over here is because this volume is relative to the price of the stock. You see, they do the volume in dollar figures instead of quote unquote shares. So that's the difference between the stock market, which is done in shares, and cryptocurrency, which doesn't have actual share counts because you can have fractions of a coin. So they do everything relative to dollars. So even though that looks like it's bigger volume over here than over here, it is in dollar figures, but it's not necessarily an actual percentage of market cap. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to find a volume where it's relative to percentage of market cap and see that chart, and I bet you right now we're at the highest that it's ever been. So that's a really big deal because that indicates turnarounds. So I saw the other day that it looked like it was turning around, and when it was right down in here, and I almost bought right in here, but I didn't. I wanted to see because I didn't want to get greedy, and I was like, you know what, if it continues down, then maybe on the next one I'll get involved. But it didn't continue down, and instead it broke to the upside of, let me show you here. It broke to the upside of one of these trend lines. It's escaped. Now that doesn't mean that there's not other trend lines that are going to contain it. That doesn't mean that it's not going to do another little drop in the short term. But in general, I think we found bottom there around the $24 mark, okay? Now, when you realize that if there was an announcement that Satoshi accounts, which can be tracked, have swapped for BSV, this thing would multiply times 10 potentially, if not more, in the blink of an eye. There would be, because there's a liquidity shortage of this. Speaking of liquidity shortage, I want to segue now into another topic. There is a website called, give me a second here, coinglass. And when you go to coinglass, one of the things that I love about coinglass is it shows you the volumes on the exchanges of any given cryptocurrency within reason. So BSV does not show on here, but Bitcoin does. So BSV is too obscure to be shown on this, but Bitcoin does. So it shows each exchange, and then you take all these numbers, you tally them all together, and you get the total that exists on the exchanges. Now, if you know anything about cryptocurrency, you've heard the term liquidity crunch, meaning that there's going to come a day when the exchanges run out of liquidity. Now, if you look at the graph here, this graph here indicates the liquidity over the last X amount of time. So from 22 August, that's the last year. So that's the 22nd of August, not August 2022, but the 22nd of August to now. You can see we went from almost 3 million down to 2.2 million basically. But did we? Here comes the big magic trick. But first, let me explain this how they want you to understand it. Here's the price. Price has gone up, up, up. Supply has gone down, down, down. They want you to believe that there's going to be a liquidity crunch. Pay very close attention. I can zoom in on this graph. This is a very intelligent graph. No one explained this to me. I noticed this, and everybody who I ask about it doesn't seem to understand what I'm talking about. Pardon my arrogance here for a second, but they don't seem to have the IQ to understand the problem that I'm pointing out to them, which is very frustrating for me because I know a lot of people who have like their life savings in crypto and they don't even understand what the heck I'm talking about right here, which is a big deal to me anyhow. So when we zoom way in, you can see that from November, we were up at 2.7, let's call it, down to, now we're down to we're at like 2.2 million basically, right? Real simple. This is us in August. That's us back in November.